Mhm.
And then one day, I kept seeing this black SUV drive around. I was like, what in the world is this black SUV? It looked like the police out here. And then so I saw a door open and I saw a black umbrella pop up. And then I saw a lady with like all white on and she walked into the barbershop and I was like, who in the world is this? And then she walked in and she was like, oh, hey, Mr. Reed, talking to my granddad. He was like, oh, hey, Oprah, how you doing, baby?
Welcome to the Life Balance Mentor Podcast with Kurt Warner. Learn how to create balance in your life as a busy entrepreneur. Gain insights into improving and growing your business and establishing routines that help balance all aspects of life. Listen to the Life Balance Mentor Podcast to get the kickstart you need every week. Welcome to another episode of the Life Balance Mentor Podcast. I'm your Life Balance Mentor, Kurt Warner. This week, I have the pleasure of having an exciting guest, Tony Reed, on. And let me tell you a little bit about Tony. So Tony is a young, ambitious entrepreneur who got his start at a very young age. His granddad sparked his entrepreneurial spirit by setting up a lemonade stand for Tony in their driveway when he was young, which I'm going to ask Tony about and get the details on that. But really what happened, when he turned 18, Tony's granddad gave him a gift that would change his life, an incredible piece of commercial property. This property actually caught the eye of the one and only Oprah Winfrey and her family, who were looking for land to develop their dream apartment complex. Seizing this major opportunity, and without a license, made Tony realize that mindset and customer service are more important than anything else. Tony decided then and there to focus on becoming a better version of himself rather than just honing his knowledge base. Today, Tony is known for his playful personality and dedication to helping others develop and grow. So welcome to the Life Balance Mentor Podcast, Tony.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kurt, for having me.
So Tony, very interesting. A lot of entrepreneurs that I hear have a moment in life that really kind of changes for them and shows them, this is the direction I want to go. So let's start off with the early days and the lemonade stand and kind of other things that happened maybe early on in your life that sparked that interest to become an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And that's a fantastic question right there, Kurt. So with that, I was born in 1985, and I was already born into a family who was used to abundance and used to the entrepreneurial spirit. So my granddad, he's the 8th generation barber in our family. So my whole entire family, all we done at that time was just barber, barber, barber. So when I was born, Kurt, in the 80s, I was born with a pair of clippers inside of my crib. I didn't have a pacifier or anything like that because my granddad, my whole life, he's been telling me, you're going to be a barber, you're going to take over the barbershop. So when I was 3, I've always shown the ambitious entrepreneur mindset because my granddad, that's what he groomed me to do. He trained me to do that since a young boy. And when I was 3, I was like, Daddy, because I called my granddad my dad. So I said, Daddy, can you build me a lemonade stand in the driveway? He was like, yeah. So we went out to Home Depot and Lowe's and got, the wood and screws and things like that. Then we would go out to Sam's Club and get like the lemon and stuff like that where I could squeeze them and make them. So all of the neighbors were so enthused by my entrepreneurial spirit at such a young age, they would come by and give me like, 25, 30 cents for a cup of lemonade. So I would make, 10, 15 bucks at 3 or 4 years old. And then so moving the story forward, when I was about 5, my granddad was like, okay, son, now you know how to make money. You know how to wheel and deal with people because that's one of the key things in life, knowing how to work with people. And he was like, I want to get you over to the family barbershop. So what I done there, Kurt, I started dusting the backs off of the gentleman's hair. When they get their hair cut, I would clean them up and get shaved and stuff. And they would tip me like $1 or $5 or sometimes $20. And so that just sparked my definite entrepreneurial spirit because now it's in like the 90s now, like 1990, something like that now. And I'm like, wow. So I'm going to elementary school, Kurt, and I had like a pocket full of legit money. And it made me feel so good. And then when I turned 14, so I worked at the barbershop from like 5 to like 14. Then my granddad, he has sugar diabetes, like really, really bad. And he had like an attack. And then he had passed out and he was like, son, I can't do this anymore here. I need for you to step up to the plate, step up to home plate, swing the bat and knock the ball out the park for the family, keep the family name going. So I was like, okay, I have to do this. This is my family, my family always had my back my whole life, so I have to keep the name going. And then, so at that point, my granddad was like, son, the business is yours. And that's how I got off into doing the barbering.
Awesome. So at 14, that's a lot of responsibility to take on. I know it happens in some circumstances. Obviously, things in life do happen. You have to step up. But in that moment, do you remember how you felt? Like, did you feel a sense of pride? Was there fear? Like, what was going through your mind and heart at that time?
All the emotions, Kurt, that you mentioned, like fear, like I said, like, just all kind of things. Like the main thing I was really thinking, Kurt, was like, I have a lot of pressure on me. Like I have like the Reed family name. It's like I'm the 10th generation because my dad, he's the ninth. I'm the 10th. I'm like, I have a lot of pressure riding on me right here. Like if I drop the ball on this at 14, my family, we could possibly be over. So I need to make sure I'm focused, get my mindset together, start meditating, start doing the proper things in life so I can really scale our business up even higher.
I think that's something that entrepreneurs of any age kind of go through. It's that moment, that decision point where, I need to do this. I need to make a decision. And regardless of the fear, regardless of the doubt, regardless of anything else, this is the time to actually push through and make this happen. So that's awesome at such a young age doing that. So what was it like, fast forward a little bit and now you're taking over kind of, running the shop at 14. What were the next 5, 6 years like for you being in that position? Because you're still in school at the time.
Yes, and that's a really good question, Kurt. So what that would look like would be I would wake up, go to school, and then as soon as I would come from school, I would catch the bus over to the barbershop. And I would just be at the shop just working from like 3:15 when I got out of school and then up until like about 7, 8 o'clock at night. So I was pretty tired back in those early days, Kurt, like because I was going to school and working.
Mhm.
But the crazy thing is, Kurt, at that time, I didn't even have a barber's license at that time, but I could get away with that because that was my granddad's shop. I couldn't be at, somebody else's shop without a license doing that because that's a huge fine. And I can admit that now, but I didn't even have a license at that time, Kurt. And then, so when I turned 18, my granddad was like, okay, son, you're a grown man now. Now it's time to go and get your actual barber's license so you can really start making money.
Mhm. So what happened after you got the license? Did you then, continue with your granddad's shop? Did you take it over or did you go and start your own kind of thing?
Good question. So no, I continue with my granddad's shop. So after I got up out of barber college and got my actual license, so what I done was I just continued to work at the shop and just kind of hone and more so perfect my craft.
Mhm.
And then one day, I kept seeing this black SUV drive around. I was like, what in the world is this black SUV? It looked like the police out here. And then so I saw a door open and I saw a black umbrella pop up. And then I saw a lady with like all white on and she walked into the barber shop and I was like, who in the world is this? And then she walked in and she was like, oh, hey, Mr. Reed, talking to my granddad. He was like, oh, hey, Oprah, how you doing, baby? Then he was like, oh, hey, this is my grandson right here, Lil T. He working in here now. Oprah was like, oh, hey, Little Reed, how you doing? I'm like, oh, hey, Miss Oprah, how you doing? Because, see, a lot of people don't know, Kurt. See, Oprah's father's barbershop is 150 foot across the street from our barbershop.
Oh,
So
wow.
my whole life, I've been knowing Oprah my whole life. So, but I didn't know who she was when she got out the SUV with that umbrella with her head down with a bodyguard walking. And so at that time, about maybe 6 months before that, Kurt, my granddad was like, son, you're doing really good. You're doing what you're supposed to do in life. I've been grooming you, training you to be a businessman, to be an entrepreneur and everything. So at that time, Kurt, my grandfather owned 55 pieces of property and he had like 15 commercial pieces of property.
Mhm.
So one of the commercial pieces of property was connected on to the backside of the barbershop. It had like, so our barbershop is the barbershop, it's the alley, and then it's like a big 300-foot building right there.
Mhm.
That was the building that my grandfather gave me. And
Okay.
so he was like, you're doing good. So this is my gift to you. So we went down, did the quick claim and everything, and boop, everything was mine and legally in my name. And then so when Oprah came in a few months later, She was like, "Oh yeah, hey Mr. Reed, whose building is this right here?" Then my granddad pointed to me. He was like, "That's his." So I'm like, you know, and then so I'm looking like I'm getting like acknowledgement from like Oprah Winfrey. Yes, I've been knowing her my whole life, but it's different, and she actually is physically talking to me more so than like seeing her and stuff like that. And she was like, "Would you be interested in selling this building?" And at first, Kurt, I was like, "No, ma'am, not at all." 'Cause
Yeah.
my granddaddy gave it to me. So she was like, "Okay, okay, no problem." And then maybe about 8 months later, she came back and she was like, "Can I talk to you outside?" I was like, "Yes, ma'am." And then she was like, "I want to make you a really good deal on this building." And Kurt, I must say, I was like, "Daddy, I'll be right back. Let me go down to the bank. Let me go sign these deeds and stuff like that." Because she just bought this building from me and everything. And what they was trying to do, Kurt, see, at this time, it may have been about 2007, 2008, something like that. And in Tennessee, they was really doing like the gentrification thing. And it was the area was more like a I'm not gonna say a dilapidated area, but it wasn't like a very well upkept area at that time, and
Mhm.
they were trying to really develop it. So Mr. Winfrey, Oprah's father, he just passed away here recently, but he was like, you know what, I want to build an apartment complex, and
Yeah.
he was a very forward thinker, Kurt. He was thinking things like, I want to have a business at the bottom and put apartments at the top. Kind of, I've seen that when I went to New York, but at that time, I've never seen that in Tennessee. Wasn't nobody thinking like that in Tennessee. And so he showed Oprah the building, and then she came in and we made the deal. So that's how the family purchased the building from me, Kurt.
Wow. Wow. So how long did you actually own that property before you sold it?
Maybe 6, 7 months, 8 months max.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I do want to ask you a question because obviously, starting at a very young age at 3 with the lemonade stand, going into the barbershop when you're 5 and helping out, taking over at 14, selling land to Oprah Winfrey, when you're 18, 19 years old. What is the mindset that you think it takes for somebody to be an entrepreneur? Because, you've had that since you were young before you even knew what being an entrepreneur was. So what is that mindset that you think it takes for somebody to have to go out and do it?
To me, Kurt, the perfect mindset would be when you know you can do it. See, if you set your mind to anything in your life, it doesn't matter what it is. You can do it. If you think you can and you think you can't, then you can't. That's one of those old sayings right there. And when I heard that, Kurt, I was like, you know what? I know I can do this. Yes, I'm very intimidated right now. Very, because, this is like the richest woman in the world. And so I was like, but I don't need to lose sight of my mind. I don't need to get overly excited or nothing like that. Because see, a lot of entrepreneurs, when someone like Oprah is in your presence, they get overly excited. They kind of get to fiddling and fumbling and kind of making moves that are like irrational. So as
Mhm.
long as you know you could do it, and as long as you know that you are capable of doing it, and don't let anything else get in your way. Because see, one thing, Kurt, this is when I got off into meditation. And that's
Mhm.
one huge thing I do. And at this time I was meditating like 30 minutes a day. Now I meditate 2 hours a day now, an hour in the morning, hour at night. But at this time I was, a little bit younger and like a little less schooled on meditation. So the perfect mindset to be able to have that entrepreneur mindset when a situation like that arises would be just to know you can do it, get your mind together, don't lose sight of focus, meaning when you wake up, don't immediately grab your telephone because normally it's going to be negativity on your phone. And then if you get that negative mindset and then someone like Oprah, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos asked to buy your building, if you already have that negative mindset, you're going to be thinking, oh, this is a terrible thing. And you could miss a golden opportunity. So just seize the golden opportunities, know you can do it, and always have your mind together.
So speaking about routines, obviously meditating in the morning, for an hour, I think it's very important what you said about not just reaching for your phone, which is very difficult for a lot of people to do because it's like the first thing. And that could be messages that came in overnight. It could be emails from, work, emails about your business. Unfortunately, a lot of people now are turned right to social media and, that does not have a positive impact on your day. So what does your morning routine look like?
Really good question. So I wake up about 6 o'clock every morning, and then from 6 to 7, I'm meditating. So, like, what I mean by that, I'm not sitting on like a pillow or anything like that. Not that type of meditate. What I call meditation is more so projecting my day. So what I do, Kurt, as soon as I wake up, I set a 1 hour timer. During that time frame, I make up the bed, jump in the shower, shave and things like that. Now, I also tell my wife, like, hey, during this time, please don't disturb me. Don't, ask anything, anything like that. If the house is on fire, come and let me know. But other than that, please don't disturb my meditative state because I need to do this to get my day set up. And then, so what I'm doing, Kurt, I'm projecting my day. I'm like, okay, so what I have to do today, I have a meeting with Kurt. Then after this, I have to do a client. I'm more so kind of putting all the pieces of my day together. Then when I get done meditating, what I do, I journal for 5 minutes. Because to me, journaling my thoughts. But when I journal, Kurt, I journal in such a way that I'm journaling like, okay, like, so I have $1 million mansion, I have this, I have that, I have this car. Not like when I journal, Kurt, I don't write things like, I want this. I journal, I have the $1 million mansion, the 10,000 square foot house. I have that Lamborghini Gallardo. I have that. And what that does is it kind of seems like a little delusional, but it's really not. What that's doing is that's foreseeing my life and that's bringing abundance into my life even more. Because
Mhm.
if I can project myself where I want to be, I'm going to take the proper actions I need to do to get there.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome because I don't know if you ever read Think and Grow Rich with Napoleon Hill,
Hmm.
but he has a statement of desire. Now, in his book, he talked about writing that out, what you have, time frames, everything that was very much you have it, not you necessarily just want it, and reading it every day. So that practice is actually very important. It's like you're manifesting, your future life and saying you have it now. And a lot of times as especially entrepreneurs, I think are trying to get to that place. And whether it's financially, whether it's, tangible assets, or whether it's just where you want to feel and how you want to be as a person, that if you're projecting, let's say, I want to be here in 5 years, I want to have this in 5 years, sometimes that's way too far out for people to actually maintain consistency to take the actions that, will get them there or get them what they're after. So I think that's a great practice to write it down every day because you have that feeling as I have it. And I think you're also setting up your day amazingly by spending that first hour just meditating, and you actually lived your day already in that first hour. Now it's just a matter of time passing by and that's it. So what's the nighttime meditation? What do you do then? Is it more reflection or what is it that you do during that last hour?
Absolutely. Good question. And like you mentioned, it's more so reflection. I kind of think about the things that I accomplished and the things that I didn't accomplish. I'm like, okay, well, that's going to be top priority tomorrow.
Mhm.
So if I needed to, let's just say, cut a YouTube video, then if I didn't achieve that today because I was doing something else, the first thing I do the next day, that'll be top priority. So when I'm meditating at that nighttime, I'm like, okay, so I didn't do my video this way. So in the morning, my brain is pre-pumped. So when I'm waking up halfway tired and showering to kind of wake up, my brain is already thinking from last night what I need to do that day. So that kind of helps boost my day.
What,
It's almost like a shot of nitrous oxide.
so what was it or who was it that influenced you to actually start meditating?
My grandmother,
Okay.
yeah, she influenced me. So she used to listen to our reverend. His name is Bishop Dupree,
Mhm.
and he would always talk about meditation. But at that time, we would call it prayer.
Yes.
And he was like, meditate, meditate. And I was like, Rev, what you mean meditate? Don't you mean pray? He was like, no, son, it's a complete difference. I was like, what do you mean? And so by talking to him and by my grandmother listening to his practices, that's what kind of got me meditating.
Awesome. So what age was it when you started kind of meditating?
Maybe 12, 13-ish, something like that.
So is this something that you also tell to other people or suggest other people to do, and, talking about the benefits of doing it?
Absolutely, Kurt. That's one of the main key things that I teach during my real estate trainings. That's the
Mhm.
first thing I teach. I don't teach about how to sell or nothing like that. I more so teach on how to be a better version of you, because you can sell anything. But if you don't have that confidence and that mindset to know that you can do it, nothing else is going to work. It doesn't matter the car you have. It doesn't matter, if you have lip injections. None of that matters. It's all that matters is if you know you can do it and take the proper action to get it going.
Okay, so I want to go back to, after Oprah purchased the property, what was the next thing? Because obviously that was probably a substantial purchase because you ran right away to make sure the deal got done. So what did you do next?
I went down to, well, actually, okay, so after I got that substantial deal, I got a limousine ride down to Bank of America. And at that time, I was banking with Bank of America. So I got a limousine ride and I had a friend come and pick up my car and drive my car back. Then when I got to Bank of America, I went in there with the briefcase and, made a real nice deposit. And then after that, I was like, what do I want to do? And I'm not going to lie to you, Kurt. I'm not going to lie to you. So the next step that I done, and I think this is something that any like young person would do. I went and bought a Lamborghini, Kurt.
It's one of those things that unless you have a very unique mindset at that age, again, put in perspective, you're what, 18, 19 at the time, have a bunch of money. Yes, you're an entrepreneur. Yes, you understand, business and you be in it, but you're still that age. And unless you have kind of mentors that say, okay, listen, hold off, delayed gratification, wait, it's something that's going to happen. I know I heard Gary Vee say several times that he spent his 20s, working, at his parents' wine shop, building that business, 6 days a week. And Sundays he'd watch football. And he said the one regret he has is not actually taking time in his 20s to maybe every once in a while go on vacation, hang out with his friends more. So, you might reflect now and say, I wouldn't have done that now if that happens, but can't blame you. So outside of buying the car, what were the next steps?
Okay. Outside of buying that, the next steps were me just to try to find different business opportunities. I knew I wanted to expand my life. I knew I wanted to do more than just be behind the chair for 10 hours, spinning people around and showing them the mirror. I knew I wanted to do more. And I was like, let me get a hair care business started. So I took some of that money, Kurt, and I got my hair care business started. And at that time, it was called Senior Tea. And I was making my hair care products in the kitchen and stuff like that. And I was selling them to the customers at our barbershop. And I made like a pretty good amount of money doing that right there, Kurt. And then after that, I just, started like, just putting the money. At that time, I really wasn't too knowledgeable about banks and nothing like that. So I just started putting, money in like savings accounts. Really wasn't getting a lot of interest or nothing like that. But I knew that I wanted to not blow any more money because that Lamborghini was a substantial purchase.
Yeah.
But as far as on that, I kept it for about a month and a half because the area that I lived in and worked in at that time, it wasn't a Lamborghini type of area. It kind of didn't fit. So I was like, okay, let me go get something else. Let me go and get a Toyota now. But yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it right there, Kurt. So as far as on that one.
So I'm going to ask you a question. Just, hearing your transitions, in your younger years, have you ever worked for somebody else?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I did. So when I was, this is kind of something else I can continue on with you if it's okay. So once I did my hair care thing, so this is around the time when I was like going to like my mid-20s now, because I had, got a little bit more knowledgeable, and now I had met my wife. And then she was just my girlfriend at that time. And I had a lot of negative events in life, Kurt, that happened to me that was like after the Oprah thing. So pre-Oprah, it was all flowers and daisies. But then after Oprah, it was like once people know you got a certain amount of money from a certain kind of person, you got certain leechers that try to lag on. Oh, I want to be with you. Oh, you're a good looking guy. Oh, So things like that start happening. Negative things like that, Kurt, start happening. And so some of my money started kind of dwindling away. And what wound up happening was my wife, and at the time she's my girlfriend, she was like, Tony, you have a hell of a story, man. Like, why don't you write a movie script? about it.
Mhm.
And so I wrote a movie script, I turned it in, came in third place out of 75,000
Oh,
people.
wow.
And then I flew from Tennessee out to LA, made some deals there, flew back to Tennessee and told my wife, baby, we're gonna have to move out to the West Coast or whatnot, because I gotta pursue my film thing. Because me cutting hair for all of this time, it was cool, but I know I could do more. And my haircut business is kind of going down the drain right now. I wanna elevate my life more. And then so when I got out to the West Coast, Kurt, I did, work for someone there because I didn't have my barber business. So I
Yeah.
worked at an exotic car dealership. And then when I worked at the exotic car dealership, to make extra money because, the screenwriting thing, it was paying, but it wasn't giving me consistent money for me just to really live on. Because when you're writing movies, Kurt, you get a certain amount up front and then you get the back end of it. Once it's all produced, it's a whole shebang with that. So I knew I needed a continual income, kind of similar to the barbershop, because at the barbershop, I made cash every day. If I
Mm.
cut your hair, Kurt, and shave you, that's $27. That's mine right there. Then at the exotic car dealership, I sold a $85,000 car on my second day. And then the
Wow.
manager was like, Tony, how in the world did you do that? I was like, it was easy, Alejandro. He was like, can you show people how to do that? I was like, yeah. And that right there, Kurt, is kind of what got me back into like that entrepreneurial spirit. I never really technically lost it, but I knew I didn't want to let my wife and I go down being way away from Tennessee, 3,000 miles away out in the West Coast, out in Cali and Arizona and stuff. So I'm like, I know I can't go down, so I have to work for somebody. So yes, I did work for somebody, Kurt, but it was a little bit later on in my life.
And even working with somebody, you pretty much immediately in a couple days turn that into kind of an entrepreneurial journey. And I think that's something, for people that have jobs and that feel kind of stuck. Well, a lot of times you feel stuck because you're just showing up. Your boss, your employer says, be here at 9, clock it at 5. You show up, you do the work, and then you go. But if you come in with the mindset of, I want to I'm going to treat this role, this position as my own little business. And it doesn't matter if you're in marketing, if you're in sales, if you're in customer service, you can treat that role as your business. And I think what happens when you do that, when you show up to work differently, you show up because like, this is mine. I own this. How can I make this better? And similar to you, selling the car and using, your years experience of an entrepreneur and sales and just working with people and building relationships, utilizing your talents, you're able to then not only sell a car and make commission, which you needed the money, but then it got recognized to say, hey, can you teach other people? So is teaching something that you have a passion for?
Absolutely. I love teaching people. I do.
So what do you do right now in terms of teaching people? Like, I know you talked about real estate trading. Obviously, you've done well as an entrepreneur and sales. So where is it that you're focusing on now?
Really good question. My focus now, Kurt, is more so to help people get their mindset together.
Mhm.
So if you have the proper mindset, you can do and achieve anything. So I have a course, online course I sell on my website, and I also have two online courses on Udemy for like the a la carte and everything. Have that, and then I also have a YouTube channel where I teach people about mindset and things like that, better communication and customer service. So those are going to be like my two main outlets where I teach at there.
Okay, awesome. Because I know when, I was actually on your podcast, as mentioned, not too long ago, and we started talking, about things that, we are passionate about. Same, it's serving people, helping others, really focused on mindset and, personal growth. And, you know, as soon as you said that, I'm like, okay, I need to have you on this podcast to be able to, share your story. So I'll make sure that, all the links and everything are in the podcast description. So people can get a hold of you, find you, and continue growing. And, one thing I appreciate about being in kind of this space of personal development, and I think I've seen it, really with those that are kind of at those highest levels, like, the Ed Milet's, the Tony Robbins, um, the, Alex Hormozzi's, the Gary V's, and all these people that really try to inspire and encourage people. I noticed, and Stephen Bartlett's another good one, but I noticed that they will appear in each other's podcast. They will support each other. It's not this sense of, I think what a lot of people have is scarcity mindset. It's like, hey, if I'm going to do this real estate deal, I don't want to talk about it with another investor because they might try to take it. It's really, you should have that mindset of abundance and help, because the more people that, we each can help, the more opportunity there is for everybody. So as soon as you said that, I'm like, come on, talk, share, and let's help as many people as we can. So I want to thank you for that. So make sure those links are there, so anybody listening can definitely check you out. So where do you see your future going? Like what, if you're looking 5 to 10 years out from now, where do you want to be? What do you want to grow to in terms of, as a person, as a husband, as an entrepreneur?
Okay, really good question. So within the next 5 years, Kurt, my wife and I, we do want to have our first child. So we don't have any little ones now. We have little fur babies, but we do want to bring an actual child into the world. So that way, we can, show it, the kid and train it and everything to be a phenomenal person, just to be the best person it could be. Next, Kurt, what I want to achieve is to do like live events and like different like concert halls and things like that, where I'm teaching about mindset, I'm teaching about creativity, I'm teaching about becoming a better you. So that's what I see within the next, 5 years there, like my future.
Okay, awesome, excellent. I'm going to ask you 2 final questions that I like to ask my guests. I know we're a little bit into 2023, but I think they're still really relevant questions. The first one is, when you look back at 2022, is there one word that you could use to describe that year for you?
Focused.
Okay. And so if we were to have this same conversation a year from now, and I said, Tony, what was the one word for 2023 to describe that year? What would it be?
Dedicated.
Okay. Awesome. Focus and dedication, back-to-back years. I think that is awesome. I'm looking forward to, hearing more great things. Obviously, we're going to connect outside of this podcast, continue to help each other, help other people as well, continue growing. So I appreciate you for being on here today, Tony. And for listeners, again, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. Not only me, but also Tony. It's our, I think, mission to really serve you, the community, and help you. And I'm sure that we will have Tony back on again, before next year, where he can tell us more about his journey, his path, and where he's gotten to. So for all the listeners of the Life Balance Mentor podcast, thank you very much. And until the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Life Balance Mentor podcast with Kurt Warner. To help create balance in your life, follow me on social media. The links are below in the podcast description. Don't forget to visit the website at lifebalancementor.com. And as always, stay balanced.